Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. One of the trailers I wanted to talk about is not actually it's not a movie trailer. So I figure I want to talk to you about it now. Can we do that?
Sure. Is it a trailer for...
It's a trailer for Daredevil.
Oh, the little TV, the 15-second thing?
No. What?
No, I only saw the teaser, the trailer teaser.
Oh, you saw a teaser for the trailer of the teaser trailer.
Yeah, the trailer for the trailer, right.
No, the trailer's out. The trailer, so you haven't even seen the trailer yet. But it's for the Netflix series Daredevil.
Right.
I don't know how we should treat these trailers. They're like hybrid, trailers.
What's a TV trailer?
But it's not really even on TV. It's more like a 13-hour film split up into episodes on Netflix.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So how was it?
What did you think of it? Oh, you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I loved it.
You didn't tell me to watch it.
Well, I thought you just would.
Yeah, I know.
I really liked it. I really liked it. You know what I think I like the best? I can't quite get a sense of it. The uniform is always dark. I don't know if this is like, it's his first episode uniform and he eventually gets the uniform. But you know how Daredevil, his uniform, the devil head, actually has eyes.
Right.
There's no eyes. There's no eyes. I don't know why I started speaking like I'm a Russian grandmother. There's no eyes, Andy. Eat your beets. It's there's no eyes in it, and I think that's really great because blind.
Yeah, right.
Why would he do that?
Never made that much sense.
Yeah. And so anyway, it looks. I think it looks really, really good.
Is it going to be better than Ben Affleck's version? I just had to bring that one up. Sorry.
Yeah, it will. It will. It definitely looks better than Daredevil, Ben Affleck's version. It looks. It's really gritty. It looks like he gets beaten up. So it looks like they, at least in the trailer, they're really showcasing him kind of figuring out who he is. But mostly it's just super, super dark, and I think that's one of the most interesting things about what Netflix can do that you don't get on, for example, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter. Which I think are both fine shows. Particularly Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season is quite good, and I've enjoyed Agent Carter. I like the throwback of that era of sort of Captain America lore and early Stark. I think it's really nice, but man, Netflix can really go cinematic, and it looks like they're really putting their money, putting some money behind this show because it has a great look to it, and I'm very excited about what they're bringing to it.
And maybe what some of these stories need is not just a 2-hour origin story in a theater, but maybe they actually need, kind of like a comic book, you've got this much longer story that kind of gives a better arc to the character and gives a better sense of their origin, of their character, of their backstory, that is actually going to help make it a better story.
I think so too. I really do, and I think the thing I'm most excited about with this particular iteration of Daredevil is that we are going to see him we're going to see how a series handles a tentpole Marvel property. Mm-hmm. Right, so it's not we don't get the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that are the sort of second string. We've never really heard of you. Except for Agent Coulson, obviously, but we don't get these sort of second string characters. We get Daredevil. We get one of the big ones in a series, and I'm really excited to see how they flesh that out. So I think that looks great.
Well, I hope it succeeds because it certainly could open the doors for a lot of other different comic book properties that may need a home like this in order to succeed.
I think so too, and we're already seeing. I as a nerd, I really love all of the comic book properties that are being sort of talked about right now, and I've been really enjoying The Flash, which has been sort of a spin-off of Arrow on the DC side, and apparently David Ramsey, who plays John Diggle on Arrow, is looking at taking up. Looks like he's in talks to take up Green Lantern, so that could be another interesting. I don't know if that's going to be a spinoff or if that's for the film. But he's a great character on Arrow, and so I just love as a nerd that I love all of this superhero stuff taken on TV and screen.
Taking flight.
Taking flight. Yes, indeed. Taking shape.
as it were, Green Lantern.
Right.
Yeah, you get me.
I get you.
Because of the power ring.
Big green things. Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't a big fan of Green Lantern, were you?
The movie?
No, the character. Were you a Green Lantern kid?
I that was one I never even, other than Justice League of America, the cartoon show, I knew nothing about Green Lantern. So as far as my world was concerned, he was always Green Lantern and was never a person outside of that.
Well, he was very cool.
Yes.
Some of us are,
bigger fans.
Show our allegiance.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's The Next Reel, and I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Yo!
And we spoil movies. And tonight on the show, we've got another Listener's Choice with Jean-Pierre Jeunet's 1991 deliciously black comedy, Delicatessen. But before we get... Did your stomach just growl?
It sure did.
I heard it. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you're an Instagram-a-lama-ding-dong, just like the hoods at Rydell High, you might want to join us at Instagram.com/TheNextReel and play the Instagram hashtag Pony Prize, hashtag I knew I could fit Grease in this bit, hashtag Standy versus the people, hashtag Guess the Movie Challenge. Andy, how'd we do against our flock of foes this week?
That needs to be your new thing. What movie can I fit in this week?
Right? Instagram-a-lama-ding-dong. Come on.
That's genius. You're a genius. I look forward to what you come up with next week.
Andy, how'd we do against the flock of foes this week?
Oh, the flock of foes? It was a strong turnout. We had some good options thrown out there as potential guesses this week. But it took 3 images again. Just three images.
3.
Yeah, that for Alexander C. Curran again to pop in and nail it with Sergeant York.
Oh man.
I know. So he pulled it out of some secret bag he's got.
I was wondering where you were going to go. Where does Alexander C. Curran pull things from?
It's his secret bag of black and white still images. It's 2 weeks for Alexander C. Curran that he's nailed it now. The last 2 weeks now he's been entered into the Pony Prize drawing for 2015.
Outstanding. And with that, Andrew, let's do trailers. My trailer falls into our collection of intriguing remakes that still probably don't need to be remade. Even so, producer Sam Raimi and director Gil Kenan bring us a reboot of Poltergeist this year, the film that is singularly responsible for a generational fear of clowns.
This development was built on a cemetery. This isn't just a few pissed-off spirits we're dealing with. It's a poltergeist.
We just want our daughter back.
From the looks of it, Kenan's Poltergeist stays reasonably true to the original. Where it looks updated comes in the scares. The original was less horror and more thriller, and the balance appears to be flipped toward the intense in this version, I think. Gil Kenan doesn't have much to his credit. Monster House in 2006 as a clever kids' haunt that is super popular around my place every Halloween. And City of Ember, I've never seen, 2008. So I can't comment on that. I do love Poltergeist, and this new version looks solid, even though it's already evident from the trailer that they've broken a fundamental element of the film. Her name is Carol Ann, dummies. Poltergeist opens July 24th, 2015. You're excited about it?
I am excited. I am a huge fan of the original Poltergeist. It's like you, I feel like, do they really need to be going back and remaking all of these classics from our youth? I don't think they do, but at the same time, they're doing it. I'm just going to kind of go with it, and I'll be excited about it. I mean, I do agree with you. Why are they changing the names? There's no logic to it. Just if you're telling the same story, then just tell the same story with the same names and everything.
It's an iconic name.
Yeah, Carol Ann. Yeah. Go into the light, Carol Ann. I mean, all of that sort of stuff is just it's important. And what is it, Madison?
Maddie. Yeah.
Yeah. It just I don't know. I don't know about that, but I still am excited about it. I think you're right. They get everything else right that's going on in the trailer. It just looks creepy. The clown stuff is terrifying. I think there was a quick shot of the tree and
the rope in the closet.
The rope in the closet, all of that sort of stuff. I feel like the original one really kind of was using all of the latest and greatest technology of the time to make it as scary as possible. And as long as I think they're doing the same thing now, using today's modern technology to make it as scary as possible, then I think there's a good chance it's going to work.
I don't know how they're going to fill the giant shoes of the diminutive Zelda Rubinstein,
right?
In this version, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm excited to see him try. And I didn't even mention this is Sam Rockwell playing the Craig T. Nelson role. And we've talked a lot about Sam Rockwell on the show. I love Sam Rockwell. I'm excited to see him on screen.
Yeah, he generally, I think, is somebody I'm always excited for. So, I've got, I'm looking forward to this one. And, I really enjoyed the Evil Dead remake that Sam Raimi was kind of producing that came out recently. I'm hoping that this one can be something else that I enjoy.
Me too. All right, what's yours?
Mine is a new trailer opening up soon called Cut Bank, which it's a strange little name. It's opening limited in April. I don't know how big it's going to get, but it's kind of an interesting thriller. It starts off with a guy and his girlfriend just filming out in a field of sunflowers or something, and all of a sudden they see the mail truck driving by, and they see someone come up and kill the mailman and take him away, and they happened to get this whole thing on film as they were hiding in the flowers. They report it. And it turns into this big cop case, trying to figure out what happened, where did this person take the mailman, all of this sort of stuff. It looks like from the trailer that it turns into something where this guy filming was actually in on it with the mailman to try to get this the reward for reporting a crime, and it looks like it's going to start backfiring. It looks like a really interesting crime thriller in a very kind of noirish vein.
My name's Cassandra Steely, and I'd like to show you my town full of cheer and wanted kindness.
Well, Derby, ain't you become ever so handsome? What can I do you for?
Waiting on a parcel.
Here, we're surrounded by miles and miles
You ain't heard?
of wheat and canola fields.
They murdered the mailman.
It's got Liam Hemsworth in it, Teresa Palmer, Billy Bob Thornton, John Malkovich, Michael Stuhlbarg, Bruce Dern, Oliver Platt. It's got a great cast, and it just looks like a really interesting modern kind of neo-noir. Matt Shakman is directing it. I'm not very familiar with him. It looks like, though, he's been behind a lot of TV, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Revenge, The Good Wife, and some of Fargo, actually. So it seems like somebody who, he's got a lot of comedy in there, but may have a good read on some of this kind of this darker stuff. So it looks pretty good to me. I'm excited for it.
Seeing when the trailer opened, I thought, meh.
Yeah, right.
But my goodness, this has an awesome cast, and I think it looks just really thrilling. I sort of feel like the trailer gives away a rather key plot point that I think they might better have pocketed.
Is that the one, the reveal that he's in on it with the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why you do things like that?
I agree. Why reveal that seemingly huge and important twist?
Yeah. So we'll see
in the trailer. So I'm hoping that it's one of those stories that is going to have another twist at some point that kind of
It better, because that's one that would have been really easy to not include.
Exactly.
In the trailer. That seems sort of sloppy. What do you think it's like let's say Thanksgiving at the Hemsworth house. I did not know.
They actually wouldn't have Thanksgiving in the Hemsworth house.
Oh, I guess
they live
that's
in
true.
Australia.
They live in Australia. What do you think it's like? I don't know. What's a big holiday in Australia? I am so
Maybe
terrible
Christmas?
at this. Christmas. Let's go with Christmas. What do you think Christmas is like at the Hemsworth house? I did not know that these were like Hollywood brothers. I don't think I've ever made the connection that Luke Hemsworth and Chris Hemsworth are Liam Hemsworth's brothers.
Yeah, they are all bros. And, I bet I would think that they probably all give Chris Thor action figures.
I'm sure. Oh, that'd be the best.
Oh, yes, fun time. So then there's Mockingjay toys that they can give out and everything, right?
That's awesome. I would love to be one of the Hemsworth brothers just on Christmas Day.
Just to see. Yeah, Mom and Dad must get lots of great gifts.
All right. When did you say when yours comes out?
It comes out in April. It's a limited release. It doesn't have much information yet. April 3rd limited is all I see for now.
All right. Cut bank. There we go.
Cut bank.
Andy.
Yes.
This is a job for the Australian. Tonight, Andy, post-apocalyptic surrealist black comedy. That's a whole genre unto itself. Delicatessen, 1991. From director Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro. Before we jump into the film, this film, of course, comes as our listener's choice. And to get us started, we actually brought the winner of our listener's choice onto the show. And so we should hear a little bit from the kindly, lovely, and talented Cameron Ryan right now.
We are welcoming to our show a listener and the Pony Prize winner from 2014, Cameron Ryan, who, I think that she broke a record with the wins for the Pony Prize. I think she's had 14 wins, and so that was I would say,
really that much?
Yeah. Certainly beneficial in scoring that win last year. So kudos to you, congratulations. As we learned, you're really good at architectural images from movies.
What is up with that? Every single picture of a house or a building, you nailed it.
Honestly, I'm an idiot savant. That's basically what it comes down to. I have no idea. Literally, you can ask me. 5 minutes before I get home to go and stop off and get milk. Can't remember that, but somehow you flash a house and
from a 25-year-old movie.
Exactly, you flash a house and all of a sudden it's like all systems go and I become Rain Man. So I don't even know what happened, but I didn't even know that it was that many.
Yeah.
I actually had come on to the I got Instagram kind of on the later side actually last year, and I think it was right after you guys had done Old Boy, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of bummed that I actually didn't. I'm kind of bummed I didn't actually join earlier, but anywho, that's around the time when I joined Instagram and started playing for the Pony Prize, and I get competitive about weird things. So
I assume you've started to receive a lot of the movie trash that we've been sending through.
My swag, I have received. Yeah, I have received it, and it's actually been interesting. The things that I've actually been getting. So yes, I did actually get the film board, the Film Foundation letter, obviously stating the donation made in my name, and also the 2 DVDs, The River and Senso, which I'm yet to actually watch, but I hear that we have snow coming my way, so I actually should be able to bunker down and watch those. Chad Stoops sent a DVD with a screen test of him as Joker, and then David Boyle, Surrogate Valentine.
Yes.
Right.
DVD, and of course. I was not expecting the action figures. The Goonies sloth.
Excellent.
God. Which, of course, I've been told by my guy friends that I shouldn't remove them from the packaging.
No, that's critical.
So yes, so they're still in their packaging.
Tommy Handsome. What did Tommy Handsome send you?
Tommy Handsome. So with every DVD, it was like a little present in itself, only because he left these fun notes with just Tommy Handsome musings. Fun film board fact number 1. Peter Wright was the first person to coin the phrase, "That's so Raven." Love Tommy Handsome.
I was so robbed. Disney.
I detect a lawsuit
Pirates.
coming up.
I know. Fun film board fact number 2. Steve Sarmento invented the ampersand and initially wanted to name it either the Saucy S or the Fancy End. Love Tommy Handsome.
I will say both of those are better than ampersand.
They're true.
Yes, they actually are. One of my favorites, actually. Fun film board fact number 3. Andy Nelson didn't actually donate a kidney to a sick friend. Instead, he had it stuffed and it sits on his desk. He talks to it at night. Weird, right? Love Tommy Handsome. I'm thinking about actually framing that one. It's awesome.
It's so awesome, especially given the movie that we're talking about.
That's true.
Fun film board fact number 4. Despite his slow speaking voice, Mike Evans is actually a 9-year-old Chinese girl. Love Tommy Handsome.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And the last one. Fun film board fact number 5. Chad Stoops and renowned actress CCH Pounder have never been in the same room at the same time. Many have speculated that they are, in fact, the same person. Love Tommy Handsome.
I love that he signs them "Love Tommy Handsome" at the end of every single one.
Just in case I had amnesia and just, didn't know who these were from.
Dude is adorable.
That way I can't pass them off my own musings, of course.
We've been very excited to talk about this film and so glad that you got it on our list. Why was this film important to you? Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Delicatessen?
Let's see. I was actually in high school and I was working at a video store back when you actually had video stores. Part of my duties were to, when it was slow, to actually go through and dust the shelves and stuff like that. Organize the movies to make sure that they're with the covers or with the VHS back at the day, or the DVDs. And I noticed that this one kept sitting on the shelf in a foreign film section, and it just didn't get taken out a lot. And the cover itself actually kind of, drew me in. I watched it, and it was actually the first one that I actually had fallen in love with, like a foreign film, and that kind of got me into kind of like the rabbit hole of foreign film. But I liked the kind of like the mix of possible danger with the whimsy, the color palette, and it was just I don't know, there was something that just stuck with me. Long after I had watched it, I had stayed, and I needed to and I kept thinking about it, and that was one of those things where it was like the first love.
Nice.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet.
It's like nerd sentimentalism.
That really is nerd sentiment. Delicatessen is one of those funny films. It really is. It is a quintessential black comedy. Sort of defines it. It's one of those that becomes a data point to continue to define the genre. But the other thing that I think is so interesting about it is you talk about the color palette and the way the film just sort of works, the visual of the film. It is really it is uniquely French. I think it really speaks to the place that it comes from. What's your sense as you fall in love with this film as not just a fiendish whimsy, but a foreign film? What did that do for you, kind of going forward? Did you find yourself exploring other foreign films, other Jeunet films? How did that work?
That got me into Calvaire, which is extremely dark, and then it just went on from there. And then, of course, I kept seeing some of the same French actors in different, films. I believe that I can't say his name right, but it's Dominique Pinon was has been in other other films. The last time I think I saw anything with him in it was Alien Resurrection, which we won't talk about that. But it's
it's Andy's favorite. God, he loves that movie so much.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was. But it's also interesting to see also the relationships between men and women in some of these foreign films. How it's women are treated. As opposed to in the U.S., where there would be a different dynamic between men and women. An example being that the men are pretty handsy with, personal space, like the postmaster with, or the postman with Julie, being so forward with her in that regard. I didn't see that kind of, being one of those things that would fly in an American film without some kind of repercussion. So, it was just interesting to see the dynamics between relationships, in those films as opposed to American films. Certain topics are spoken about more freely there than they are here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that people always, expect from foreign films, maybe, which, there's that foreignness about them. They're like, oh, it's a French film, or it's an Italian film. We expect all that extra crazy sex talk and the handsiness of the people or whatever. And it's I don't want to say it's like a free pass or anything, but it's definitely one of those things that can pop up in those films that we just kind of, okay, well, it's a foreign film, I'll just go with it. And that's also one of the interesting things about this film is it's, essentially about eating people, which is its own unique, storyline that, I don't know if that came across like more acceptable to U.S. audiences because, it's just one of those crazy foreign films, or if it's just, because of the comedy element as opposed, this could have been a horror film really with all this eating of people and everything, but it becomes this kind of this interesting post-apocalyptic, dark comedy really. But what's your sense on that element of it, kind of the eating of people, the dark humor coming from that rather than making it into a horror film?
Oh, no. I actually thought it was interesting that they even had a system on how to, who to eat. And the whole system actually, was based on, no one that actually lived in the building. It must be a stranger, somebody who's passing by and won't be missed. And yet, it was really instigated by obviously the butcher, but it was one of those things where nobody else, actually stepped up and said there was, this is wrong or anything like that. If anything, they saw it as, well, this is what we have to do to survive. So it was interesting that, they all somehow against their own, trying to resist it, they all kind of fell in love with Lucien. They didn't want to like him, but because they knew that there was going to be an end to him at some point. And, it ended up being the other way around.
Delicious. Well, this is a fantastic pick, and I'm, as I said, I'm just thrilled that you dropped this on us because it is a great addition, and I'm excited to do the whole show on it. So, thank you, Cameron, for doing this and for being a part of the next reel.
Thank you so much, guys.
Andy, I love this movie. I stinking love this movie. And you know what? I want to tell you something. I've been waiting for a long time to tell you this. You give me a lot of guff on this show. Every time we watch a so-called black comedy that I say I don't like, you say, well, maybe it's because it's a black comedy and you just don't understand them. And I want you to know you're wrong about me because this is a black comedy and I love it.
When have I ever said that?
Every time. You just said it. You just said it. Just 2 weeks ago. We were doing the Lavender Hill Mob and the Lady Killers. We were doing the Lady Killers. And I said I didn't like it because it wasn't black and it wasn't very funny. And you said, well, maybe because it's a black comedy. And I think this is a black comedy that gets it right, man. It's threatening and funny, and people eat people.
All of that.
All of that.
So maybe they just needed to, instead of the lady killers, it should have been the lady eaters.
That would have upped the intensity, the stakes. There would have been some stakes.
Some literal
steaks. Old lady steaks. That could have been the international title, Old Lady Steaks. Grandma Tenderloin. Baba T-Bone. Oh, man. I could go on all day.
Yes, you probably shouldn't, though. Well, I agree with you. I absolutely love this film. Ever since I first saw it, this was one of those artsy films that it never played in a theater near me, like at the main movie theaters, but I was in college and it played on campus in kind of, they had the little art series of movies that would come through and play a couple different movies every week. And I remember seeing in the ad for this one, Terry Gilliam Presents, and I was like, oh, well, hey, if Terry Gilliam is behind this one, then maybe I should go see it. And I went and saw it, and true to form, it very much is something that would kind of jump out of Terry Gilliam's head. I think he was right to kind of get behind this and The City of Lost Children, their follow-up to this, and just kind of help them get a release over here in North America, as limited as it was. But it certainly is the thing that got me to go see it, and I instantly fell in love with it, and I've loved it ever since.
Absolutely. I want to start... Boy, that Terry Gilliam connection is spot on. That is the first thing I thought, that this is Brazil with cannibalism. And I just adore that mashup. I want to start with the visual language of the film. This film was shot by Darius Khondji. We've talked about Khondji on the film before. When did we talk? We talked early on. We talked about Alien Resurrection.
Well, a number of David Fincher films, too.
A number of David Fincher films. Alien Resurrection, Panic Room, Seven. So it's been a while since we've talked about him. But can you reflect a little bit on how you would define the visual language of this film?
It's absolutely one where they not just with the DP, but also with the production design team. The color palette, it has a lot of the oranges, and just kind of everything looks rusted and decayed. And I think that was something that they all really wanted to go for in creating this film, was to make something that looked very that did look decayed in this post-apocalyptic world. They wanted something that had that feel. This is something where Darius Khondji initially started looking into the bleach bypass process that became very big through him when he did it in Seven. In the case for this film, it wasn't quite to the extent that they did in Seven. He only used about 50% of the bleach bypass. I think that they were afraid that it was taking too much of the color out, and so what they ended up doing when they designed the sets is actually they boosted the colors on the sets, and then they did the bleach bypass, dropped it by 50%. So that kind of left some of that color palette in there. And then they also did they flashed the negative with I believe it was a Vericon machine that Aeroflex makes. And what that does is that actually reduces the contrast slightly. And then they were also, when they were doing that, they were able to put some different filters on it that can help color the shadows of the negative. So they really, really worked hard to create this colorful world that was very muted and rusty feeling in order to really give us a sense of this place. And I mean, we talk about it on the show all the time, this sense of world building and how critical it is and when it works and when it doesn't. This is a wonderful example of a story. We don't get a lot of the backstory. We don't know what happened. We don't know how this world ended up in this post-apocalyptic place that it's in. What we do know is that it has this backstory. It has a sense of place within the story as far as the troglodytes, this underground group of rebels that are stealing food. We know food is there's a huge shortage on food, and we really focus on this one building and their struggles to eat, basically, and to find food to survive. And just through that limited bit of information within the context of the story and this amazing look that they've created, we have a full-fledged world that is incredibly easy to buy into.
I absolutely agree, and I love that the story of the troglodytes, they don't go into it all that much. Like you say, there's no real backstory, but it feels like a backstory because they play such a relevant part in the A story of this film. From the very first establishing shot that we get of the actual building, this just sort of bombed out building, we get a sense of the scope of the world that we're going to visit, and we don't ever get to go beyond that. Besides that high angle shot where we look down from the front door, from right above the front door of the Delicatessen onto the street, we just get probably it looks like about a 60-foot area of the street below, and that's all we get to explore of this world, and yet it still feels really rich and full as a result of what goes on inside the building and underground. Yeah. I just love it. I am really, really enthralled by this film. I love what you define the color palette. I mean, really, it's like hyper monosaturated as a result of all the whiz bang technology they use to do it. This orange palette, it lends to that oppressiveness, but when you really notice it is in the very last shot of the film when our two main characters are sitting on the roof playing their respective instruments, and we finally get blue.
Right, blue sky finally comes in,
and it is shocking in such a simple, sweet scene. It is visually jarring to see the blue as it enters this orange and the clouds part. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah, and very fitting in the context of this film, where it's so bleak for so much of it. And I think at some point somebody says, the winds are changing, or something like that, which I think is very fitting for this stranger coming in who's going to shake things up a little bit within this world.
So the film, the setup of the film is pretty straightforward. As you said, there's a shortage on food. Food has become, meat in particular, has become a currency, and the butcher is the consummate sort of mob banker. And in order to keep food flowing, he has an ad placed in a local circular at the post office, and it advertises for self-help or help around the house. He needs somebody to come and do labor. He gives them a nice room, he feeds them, and in exchange they do labor around this hotel. And the plot of the boarders and the mob butcher is that these people will come in, and at night there will be some noise on the stairs and the lights go out, and the butcher will kill the handyman and then butcher him up and serve him from his butcher shop to the people who live there. Does that about cover it? Does that about cover it for you?
That covers it. That's about what happens.
And so, we see the thrill is in, it opens with the escape of a handyman, the attempted escape of one of the handymen. And this is a wonderful bit where he is taping trash to his body. He's trying to cover himself in trash and disguise himself as trash and be thrown out as the trash people come by. And when you look at the image that I think a lot of people associate with this film of the lid opening and these giant eyes with this big wide angle peeking out from it's sort of the Oscar the Grouch look, at the trash can lid opens up and these eyes are peering out, and then the butcher sees him and the maniacal grin happens and this beautiful cleaver comes down and that's how that introduces us to the credits.
Yeah.
In the opening scene of the film, it is a great way to open and set up the mania of the butcher and the joy that he gets in his job. The butcher is played by Jean-Claude Dreyfus, Clapet, and he's just a scary, scary dude. We've seen him. We haven't talked about him before, I don't think, but he's in another one of my very favorites, 1995's City of Lost Children.
Yeah. Another great movie.
What did you think of The Butcher?
Yeah, I think you're right. He's very well cast. He's intimidating. I think comparison to a mob boss is spot on. He very much feels that way, where he runs the roost here, and he's the one who does the killing. He does the butchering. He gives everybody their food. They pay him in lentils or beans or corn or whatever it is that they have scraped by with, and. Yeah, I think there's something with just his presence that is perfect for an antagonist.
And over the course of the film, we see his intensity grow, even as he doesn't necessarily change. Right? There's no redemption in his character over the course of this film.
No,
but his sense of the sort of magnification of his mania is fantastic to the very bitter end. And it is one of the best. For me, it is one of the best, most memorable deaths of the antagonist of any film that I carry. It's easily in the top 5 deaths of the antagonist series for me.
It is a pretty fantastic one with the Australian and everything, and just
What is the Australian?
The Australian is this fantastic. I mean, it's almost straight out of Krull. It's like this crazy knife that Louison, our protagonist, has. It's like a one handle with 3 blades protruding, and he's a former circus performer, so he's just got this weird sense about him and strange things like this knife called the Australian, and he uses it to rescue. This other woman's panties from a light post where they're hanging after these kids who are trying to fish it up for their own enjoyment. They accidentally drop it and it lands on this light pole. He pulls out the Australian and throws it. It's basically like a boomerang. It's this knife.
It's a boomerang that defies all laws of physics.
Right. It would never work, but he throws it, it spins around, and it comes back and catches it. And, of course, it works well for him because he knows how to use it, but it doesn't work so well for our antagonist when he tries it.
It does not. He tries to throw it at our protagonist, and it barely misses the protagonist, and then it boomerangs back and lands squarely in Jean-Claude Dreyfus's forehead.
Yep. Ouch.
And it embeds itself deep into his brain. But it does not kill him immediately, and he is able to go ask all of his cronies, do I have something on my head? Which is just, I am laughing out loud at that point. It's really a great bit.
Yeah, it just looks so painful.
It really, really does. It is great. Okay, so let's talk then about our protagonist. We've seen him before. Dominique Pinon plays Louison, and we have talked about him. We talked about him more than once. I think just Alien Resurrection, right?
Yeah, I think unfortunately just Alien Resurrection. We should at one point do Amélie, but haven't quite gotten there.
We really should. The guy's got 153 credits to his work, most of them obviously very, very heavily French. But what a fantastic face.
Yeah, he is. The fact that he's a former circus performer works so well because his face is this strange, almost like this clay, malleable face that just kind of got squished down a little bit or something. There's something about it that just always, I find just so fascinating to watch. And he does, and actually he says that, before this film, this was really his first opportunity to play like a love interest. Before this, it was always killers and things like that, because he did have a much different look that normally people wouldn't cast as your protagonist. But I think there is something so charming about his peculiarity, and it works so well in context of him being a circus performer. And then he does these things like he pulls out these bubbles and does this little dance with these bubbles with these kids, and he is doing his little thing where he's practicing for another act, and he's got the cleaver in his head. And just everything that in playing the saw, I mean, come on, that's just one of the strangest instruments that somebody could pull out and play. And
yet so beautiful,
so charming. And it just, I mean, all of these things add up to just element after element, reasons that you should just fall in love with this character.
It really is. It's one of these things that I think what he does so well with this character is provide us the love of contrast, right? And I should say the writing credits on this film, obviously Jean-Pierre Jeunet Marc Caro and Giles Adrian get the writing credits on this film. The character is so brilliant for me because of the contrasts that we get, right? We get a saw, which is a violent instrument. It is an instrument designed to rip things apart. And yet, for him, it is an instrument of the sweetest, most lilting sound that he plays expertly. We get him, his look is a little odd. It looks very circusy, and yet he comes across as one of the sweetest, most gentle people. When he's painting the ceiling, he can't reach a certain spot on the ceiling, and so he takes off his suspenders, these like old broken down bit of clothing, and he manages to turn them into a sort of rubber band suspense tool that allows him to bounce out and get the far reaches of the corner of the ceiling. It is that exercise in contrast. You already brought up the cleaver in the head bit as he's trying to work on a new act, even as the world has fallen down around his ears. He is still working on a new act of charm and cleverness for the circus, because there is, in the face of catastrophe, hope in this odd little man. And I find that so endearing, and I think in this film it fills such a great hole with such light.
Yeah, it really, I think you're right. The whole idea of the contrasts in this film really does play right from the beginning, really. I mean, it's an interesting world that we're introduced to that is very, everything does seem kind of backwards. And it's like, if you're looking at ups and downs and heavens and hells and all of that sort of stuff, you've got the good guys living underground and the bad guys living above ground. You've got, when he goes into his room the first time and turns on one tap, it turns on the other spigot, and then he turns on that tap and it turns on the first spigot. So everything is kind of backward. And so the fact that this is this stranger from the outside that comes in and into this dark, hellish world and is able to bring so much light, I think that he is the perfect casting choice and just a brilliantly written character to do that for this story.
You know, you bring that up, the guy living in the basement with the snails and frogs.
Oh, yes.
I maybe I missed it. I don't have a real sense of his role apart from, being just another character in the place. But speaking of contrasts, again, the world is falling down around their ears. And here is a guy who feasts on one of the, I should say now stereotypically quintessential delicacies of France every day. Snails, right? He's
snails
eating escargot, snails and frogs. And he's doing so in disgusting, just filthy, awful environment. But it is, that contrast again is like, look at this guy. He is living in absolute ecstasy, culinary ecstasy. Which I think is really brilliant. And back to Darius Khondji, I mean, what other filmmaker do you, or what other just sort of cinematographer do you know that could expertly do a low angle on a frog? I mean, that is one of the things I love so much about this film, the low and high angles that he uses so often in just his placement and movement of the camera. And they play with the stairs and they play with the, the lights and then they get down into this basement, and he actually is able to make us feel like we are beneath a frog, and I think that is so cool.
Yeah, it's skill that man has, cinematographic skill.
I like it when you say cinematographic. Julie Clapet is the daughter of Clapet, the butcher, played by Marie-Laure Donac.
Yeah, Dunac or something.
Dunac. My French is terrible.
So is mine.
She is lovely. She has not been in all that much, but my goodness, she is a sweet, sweet love interest.
She really is. She's very easy to fall in love with. She's kind of that quirky, nerdy girl that you just kind of easily fall in love with in these sorts of movies. They take off their glasses and they're a beauty. It's a little bit stereotypical, but she does it very well.
But at least she can't see when she takes off her glasses.
That's true.
You know? There again, with another contrast.
Yes, indeed. Apparently, she is very big at specializing in the dubbing of English films into French. So she's actually played Joey Lauren Adams in Big Daddy. She did Heather Graham in Killing Me Softly. She played Liv Tyler as Arwen in Lord of the Rings and in The Incredible Hulk when she was Betty Ross. She's just somebody who specializes in doing that for a lot of these films that end up playing over there in France. So that's kind of a funny little thing to do.
That's funny. Now that I think about it, she's got a very nice voice.
She does. It would work very well as Arwen.
She ends up taking on a bit of the hero role as she goes down to, she knows that the plot is happening, and of her father's to kill the handyman.
Who she has fallen in love with.
And she takes it upon herself to initiate a rescue attempt. And so she leaves the building late one night, and she scurries down through the manhole cover in the street into the depths of the sewers of France and introduces us to the troglodytes. Now, who are the troglodytes, Andy?
It's just like this interesting little, rebel movement, this insurrectionist group that lives under the streets, and I don't really know a whole lot of what they do, but they obviously are causing problems. They, I think people feel like these guys come up and attack people and eat people, and they're all wary of these guys now. But these guys, I think, are also just this rebel movement. I mean, I guess you could say they're just kind of criminals, because really what they're trying to do is find food and forage like everybody else. And they set up this deal with Julie to steal all of this corn and lentils and stuff from her father, the butcher, in exchange for them rescuing Louison from her father's clutches.
And that's another relationship that I love, because we have, we have these troglodytes who are, they live underground, but when we finally see them, they've been set up as terrorists. The press, all the articles in the press sets them up as terrorists, that they come up, they kidnap and eat people. But it turns out when we hear their story, they're the ones that are afraid of being taken and eaten by the butcher.
Right.
And so it makes for a nice partnership between Julie and the Trogs as they initiate their rescue.
And again, going back to world building, the fact that all of these guys have these costumes, I guess, fitting for people who essentially are living in the sewers, they look like, just really intense rain slickers is what they're wearing. They've got all of this like heavy rubber rain gear on, and it's not quite scuba diving sort of clothing, but it definitely is kind of just that rubber stuff to just keep them dry. And they've got the little hoods on and the funny goggles and everything. They really do. The filmmakers really worked to create a really unique look for the troglodytes. So in a sense, they almost look like strange monsters.
They do. Well, again, this goes straight to the Terry Gilliam connection. I mean, this is where, for me, they're all Robert De Niro's living underground.
Exactly. And I knowing that Brazil was a big inspiration for these guys, it's completely fitting because the whole, the idea of these terrorists who aren't really terrorists, but in these funny outfits, completely harkens back to Robert De Niro in that film.
Upstairs, we have the family that lives up there. This is the who is it? The Tapioca family?
Yeah, Tiki Ogado is the dad.
Tiki Ogado and Emery Pisani.
Yeah, and then the grandmother Edith Kerr. This is a great film where, like Sergio Leone, who also was a big influence, somebody who could cast amazing faces and just found beautiful faces, that just these wonderful landscapes. Of people's faces to put in front of the camera. These guys worked really hard to just find amazing faces all through the story to put in here. Grandmother's face, even though she doesn't really say anything, although she's got a great scream, another wonderful character that is just thrown in there. And then Tiki Olgado and his wife are just a great pair, as they're always struggling to get their children fed, and the fact that he's got this one condom that they have been
Keep
using
patching.
time and time again that he's patching with his bike patches. I mean, it is just, that's priceless sort of humor. Really is.
You know what I love about their function in the film too. We see a number of other characters, right? We see the guys who are making the little man boxes, whatever those are.
The little cow noisemakers.
Yeah. Right, the cow noisemakers. We see even the tapioca kids. We see a number of these characters in the film, and all of them have their own sort of function. But the tapioca family serves to demonstrate for us the level of hunger. They're like the hunger barometer.
Right.
Right? And I think that ends up being really, really useful as we see, because they allow us to see how desperate everybody should be in this building. The hungrier they get, the crazier the butcher gets, the crazier his sort of gang of thugs gets as they try to finally entrap the handyman. And so crazy, in fact, that Tiki Elgato actually stages the scene so that the butcher can capture the grandmother, and they end up serving her along with the leg of one of the little sound guy makers. Rufus's leg as he tries to rescue her. So, it ends up being, I think, a really useful function in the film to give us a sense of how hungry we should be feeling.
Yeah, very true. That's a good point brought up, because I mean, I will say the butcher, there is this point where the butcher seems a little more content than he has been in the past with letting this handyman stick around a little bit longer, because people keep asking, why is this guy it's been over a week, why is he still here? We need to get moving here. But he's just like, oh no, he still needs to finish the ceilings and all this stuff. And he seems, for whatever reason, a little more inclined to let this one get a little more work done and stick around and live a little longer. But it's at that point when Marcel and the head of the tapioca family is finally like, look, we're starving here. Let's get a move on. That things get rolling again. So it is a very key point in the film.
And it also allows us to see that they're willing to break their own rules, right? They have rules around who is going to live, and the tenants in the building, they're the ones that get to live, the ones who've been there all along. But here we see that they have gotten so desperate that they're willing to sacrifice one of their own, which changes the nature of the rule set in the house, in the building.
That's a great little bit when Marcel's wife is just like, I didn't even get to say goodbye. And he's like, well, let's go do that now, as they walk out holding a flank of steak wrapped in paper of her to go up to their room and eat.
So dark. And I'm, what is your sense when Roger and Rufus are talking? We just discover that Rufus had his leg cut off in the rescue attempt, and he's describing, he says, oh yeah, he was so kind, the butcher. He was so nice to me as he took my leg. And Roger tosses him a wrapped package of meat saying, here you go. I mean, do you think he's saying we're going to eat your leg now, or was that part of grandma? I don't know. So dark.
It is so dark. At that point, I don't think these guys can even really judge about that, because it's just all so wrong.
And as far as we know, I mean, we don't actually see Rufus eat again. He gets pretty depressed.
He does get pretty depressed.
Yeah, he's pretty grim. He is in love.
Yeah, with Aurore
Intelligator, and she played by Sylvie Laguna. She's hysterical.
The brilliance of coming up with this strange. I don't know what was Roger, what he was thinking, because it's revealed later that he has been whispering into the pipes, trying to convince Aurore to kill herself, and I think it's because Roger knew that his brother Robert was in love with her, and I don't know if he felt that he was going to leave, or if it was just going to go down a direction that it shouldn't, or what. But he was trying to convince Aurore to kill herself, and so she thinks that these ghosts are talking to her, and the schemes that she comes up with to kill herself are so funny. It's just these strange Rube Goldberg suicide attempts that never end up working out. But my goodness, they're all just so funny.
They are wonderful, particularly the last one. All of them have the ability to kill. Like, she has all the tools to kill herself instantly. Like, she doesn't need to go through the Rube Goldbergian mechanics to actually make this work. But the last one, I think, is the most blatant, as she has a gun, a shotgun, angled on a chair pointing at her head. The shotgun is tied to some other contraction. She has a noose around her neck, and she's standing on a chair, and she's got the gas on and the oven open, and the can, and all of these things happen, and a full bottle of pills and a glass of water, and she's standing there waiting for
her husband to open the door.
Her husband to open the door, right? And everything goes wrong, and you think, how is it possible that all of these backup attempts to kill her would fail at the same time? The shotgun goes off, it shoots the rope of the noose, she falls over, she closes the oven, the pills she puts in her mouth, but as she falls, they jolt, and all the pills fall out of her mouth. I mean, everything fails. It is really, I mean, talk about black. She is one of the great sources of the black comedy part of this black film, that she makes suicide laugh out loud, hysterically funny.
It is a riot. And then, of course, in the end, it does succeed, because when her husband turns the light switch on, it sparks, and all the gas in the room blows up that entire floor of the complex, killing them both. Which
sort of starts I should say accelerates toward the climax of the film. At this point, the butcher has gone bananas, and it's all out that he's going to kill the handyman. The handyman knows that they're fighting on the roof, and we have the big standoff.
Yeah.
As the troglodytes attempt to kidnap Louison and save him down in the sewer, but they end up kidnapping the butcher's girlfriend instead.
Yeah, Mademoiselle Plus.
We get a little bit of mistaken identity action. And there you go.
And then you get an underwater kiss too, also because of the flooding of the room, which was, I have to say, the strangest.
Talk about that, yeah.
The strangest way to try to escape when people are pursuing you. And they go, oh, I know what I'll do. They end up hiding in the bathroom, and the only way out is the one door. And so what he comes up with is this: let's flood the bathroom, fill it all the way up, so that when they burst through, all the water will wash out, and we'll be able to get out. And I guess it does work, but luckily they opened the door, because they pretty much almost drowned in this room. But it just again speaks to kind of the peculiar way that people think in this world, and just it's a very, in a weird way, fits within kind of that Rube Goldberg-esque types of suicide attempts that Aurora was trying to do, because this is a very odd way to escape this room when people are at the door, although it's effective.
Absolutely. And it ends up, providing the set for the final standoff. We've already talked about the death of the butcher, but one of the things that was the result of filling the room with water is that the floor gives out in the bathroom. And what we end up with is three of the ruffians, the butcher and two of his hench people, on the ground in the floor below, and we have Julie and Louison up above, perched on the edge of the bathroom wall, sort of on the toilet and on the edge of the wall. And it makes for one of the most interesting compositions, I think, in the film. In a film full of interesting compositions, is we have these five people on screen, and they fit so perfectly in this shell of an apartment complex. It's just a really interesting set for the final standoff.
Yeah, you're right. It works very well in context of this crazy world that they've created, where everything really is completely falling apart now, and it's just this very big mess that's going on. It fits very well within the context of the story here.
Absolutely. Who else excites you in this film? Anybody else you want to?
Well, I mean, the talent, they're all great. I think everyone is perfect in their roles. The postman, I got to say, he is one serious spitter. He hawks a loogie at that picture and just shatters the glass. That was so strange.
Weird.
Yep. but I mean, I think they're all great. They all work really well. But the only other one I was going to point out was that Marc Caro, one of the two directors, actually appears as one of the troglodytes.
Yes, he does. As who is he?
He's Fox, yeah. So I have a hard time keeping all of them straight as to who is who. They just kind of all become the troglodytes. But yeah,
the only one I think we hear by name, right, is Tourneur, the one who's shot.
The one who's dead. Shot dead, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they introduce themselves. They go through that whole thing.
You're right.
They all introduce themselves, but they say it so quick, and they're all dressed the same. I just can't remember which one's which.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's a good point. It is overall. It's fantastic. One of the things that was interesting. We in our conversation with Cameron, she mentions the relationship between men and women in this film, and sort of on display in the sort of French cultural norm that's on display in post-apocalyptic Delicatessen. What's your thought on that? We have two sequences that I think are particularly important. One is the musical sex scene, which I think is just a sort of nice, frivolous display of sex that ends up not being particularly offensive. But then we have the physicality between the Julie and a couple of different men in her life.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know if I don't know what if they were trying to say anything big or anything, but definitely as Cameron pointed out, the postman certainly is a little more handsy with Julie than a lot of people may be. He certainly seems to have that sense of ownership about her that I don't know. There's almost a sense of that kind of those relationships in films from like the 40s and 50s, kind of the crime thrillers where you have those characters who tend to feel a little bit more like they own the women. The postman certainly plays that way. And then, of course, there's the relationship between her and her father, who she clearly doesn't like very much, but she hits this point where because he's not going to stop his pursuit to kill Louison, she tells him she hates him. He slaps her, which is, I think, a very strong moment. That apparently was kind of an improvised bit that they kind of talked to Jean-Claude Dreyfus about doing, and nobody else knew that was going to happen. Certainly not Marie-Laure when that happened. So that's a completely genuine reaction. But it's painful to watch, and it's just coming from the antagonist. I guess you could say it's just one more reason to hate him. But it certainly feels very, very dark and frightening in this world. That already is kind of a pretty scary world. But these are moments that are just genuine human moments that just feel very uncomfortable.
That I think is that's the moment I was thinking of too. That it ends up being one of the most terrifying moments in a film about terrifying moments, just because it is human. It's the one that brings us back to sort of our reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other functions you want to talk about before we dive into how it did?
Well, you did mention the wonderful bit on the bed, and I just have to say that is the trailer when they did release it over here was that scene basically. I mean, that's all they basically played, which I think was very funny and also spoke to a sense of a foreign film speaking to a foreign audience. It's very easy to enjoy just a fantastic sequence like that. You don't have any language. You don't have to understand what it is that there's no words being spoken. It's just this beautiful rhythmic scene of how everybody kind of comes together between the sex and the painting and the knitting and the pumping of the bike tires and the making of these little cow toys, the rug beating, cello practice. Everything just comes together so beautifully to just kind of create the flow of that sequence. It's so wonderful. And then I think the follow-up to that, which I think could have turned a little more lascivious, but doesn't, is when Louison is asked by the mistress to go fix her squeaky springs. And he goes in there, and you've got this beautiful, it's almost like a dance as this kind of like Hawaiian luau music is playing on the TV. And the two of them are just kind of doing this little bobbing dance as they move just back and forth on the bed, trying to figure out where the squeak is coming from. I mean, that just is such a beautiful moment. I have such a joy watching that moment, and it is a great way to kind of take all that lewd, kind of grimy butcher sex out of that bed and turn it into something beautiful, which I thought was great.
It's really charming, but so much of that charm comes from Louison Dominique Pinon's face. Mm-hmm. In that sequence, his curiosity around really uncovering the squeak, the source of the squeak, and that discomfort, that sort of awkward discomfort that he brings to that sequence is, I think, really, really great. That was the one when I first saw this film, and I had some buddies in high school. We all saw this film, and it was the one where we would sort of bounce together. Anytime we found ourselves sitting on someone else's bed, we would start bouncing like that and kind of leaning to one side.
Right.
Because we were so funny.
You guys were awesome.
Oh, funny.
Good stuff. And then the last little bit I was going to say is the magic of the opening credits. This is something that Jeunet certainly has continued a few more times, like in Amélie. Just this beautiful way that they did the opening credits, where everybody's credit was on a prop in this room, and it all kind of fit within the context of who their department and what they did, which I always found so magical. And I guess they used a motion control camera to kind of move through this elaborate setup of all these props in this location as they kind of went through, found the name, went on to the next one, found the name. I found that just magical to watch. And I don't know how true it is, but I did hear that this was one of the first uses of motion control like that. So,
how'd this one do?
This film did pretty well for itself. I couldn't find. I did find what it cost budget-wise in euros. I have no idea how that kind of correlates. I don't know if these euros have been modified or anything, so I didn't put them into our chart, but I did find that it cost 3.8 million euros to make, and the European box office for it was 13.7 million euros. So it did really well for itself over there in Europe. Over here in the States, it ended up making almost $1.8 million adjusted. That would be it's not a huge change, about almost $3 million domestically. So it's not a ton of money. It was a very kind of a quirky little independent foreign film, and I think that it certainly found its mark here. It made its money back, and I'm certainly glad that I got to enjoy it. And it did well for itself in the award circuit too. The César Awards over in France, kind of their Oscars. It won Best Editing, Best Film Work, Best Production Design, Best Writing. And so, I think it was a nice surprise for the French, who weren't used to this sort of film.
I say we rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you can check out our list of our favorite films and, all our films. You can see how we did, how we ranked them, and see if our favorite stack lines up with your... Lacks up? Man. That's what happens when we record in the morning. I'm just not quite ready for that. My mouth is not ready for the day.
Coffee, more coffee.
See if your favorite films line up with our favorite films. And let's see, what do you think? I feel pretty good about this one.
I do too. I would say let's see if it ends up in the... Gosh, you think it could go for the top 20?
I was going to say top 20.
Let's
do
find
top
out.
20.
All right. First up, Delicatessen or Kind Hearts and Coronets?
Oh, Delicatessen.
Yes. We love you, Alec Guinness, but Delicatessen. Ooh, Delicatessen or 12 Monkeys?
Delicatessen for me.
I actually think I would agree with you on that one. Delicatessen or The World's End? I think I'm still Delicatessen, though.
I think I am too, but it's getting more difficult.
It is getting really tough here. Oh, Delicatessen or Brazil?
See, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. And you know what? I'm going to say Delicatessen.
I know, and I'm going to say Brazil.
Oh.
I know.
On a 1 to 10, where are you for Brazil? Like 1 being Brazil, 10 being
I'm on a
Delicatessen.
1.
Okay, I'm going to give it to you because I'm about an 8.
Okay, all right. Delicatessen or Up in the Air?
Delicatessen.
Yeah, Delicatessen, I think so. Delicatessen or Time Bandits?
Delicatessen.
I think of Delicatessen here, yeah. Delicatessen or Brazil again? No, back to Brazil. I guess it's
How do we do that?
I don't know. Well, sometimes if you, depending on the number of films in there, it'll end up back at the same film.
Well, I give it the same.
Well, there we are. Number 13 out of 171.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it just kind of jumped right up there.
That is great. Feels really good.
It feels good. I feel good about
What a treat. I am so glad. And how we could have a movie that would sneak up to number 13 and have never, I don't think either of us have ever thought to put Delicatessen on our list of films. I think going into our planning all the way out to 2020, I don't think Delicatessen's on there.
It hasn't been, which is a shame. So thank you, Cameron Ryan, for making us talk about it, because we certainly enjoyed it.
Awesome movie. I'm so glad it's on the list. Andy, where do we go from here? This was a nice little break after Alec Guinness, but we start a new thing.
We're going to do a mystery series, Pete. This is going to be kind of a fun little game for us and for our listeners.
Oh, I like this. Tell me more.
Well, we're going to talk about 4 films, and there is a common thread between all 4 of them. And, well, there may be more than one common thread, but there's one specific common thread that we are thinking of. And what we're going to do week 4, when that 4th episode goes out, we're going to allow people to comment on Facebook or Twitter and try to guess what the thread is. And the first person who gets it is going to win a fantastic shirt.
Oh, how nice. More shirts.
Yeah, it'll be kind of the last of the shirts, because those are kind of
That's it. They're done.
Yeah, they're.
Well, this is very exciting. And to be clear, it is the thing, as Andy said, the thing we're thinking of. You can't just make up a thing. Can't come up with a different thing. You got to guess the thing we're thinking of.
Yeah, I should say, we think there's only one connection between all 4 of these films. That's what we're going for. If you come up with something else, that's great. Pat on the back. But the one thing that we're thinking of is what you have to guess.
Excellent. Well, I'm pretty excited about this one. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
We're
going to have to really kind of jump in and think about this.
Rather than, like we do every week, just throw crap on the wall.
Hey, it's worked for 3 years.
All right, my man, I got to go get some coffee.
All right, I got to go get some steak.
Mine is a 2-star, and I'm doing it just as a representative sample. This is the newest review for this film on Amazon, and it continues our thread of really insightful Amazon reviews. And I think it captures the truth of the film, although I'm not sure that the description of the actual review lines up with the star rating. But I would agree with this review. It is from Donna, from 2 days ago. Weird and gross.
Man.
And that is all. And I agree with both of those things, although I would put many more stars after it.
I think she uses the same editor that
the other series.
Person, yeah. So I'm cheating. I'm doing 2 reviews. The first one is, and I'm just doing this because it's just so silly. It's by Paul A. Geertsen, who says, "Please delete my review. I did not like this movie and changed my mind about providing a review. How do I delete it?" You just don't start writing a review.
You don't start writing. Yeah, you stop writing. Stop right now. Stop typing.
But the other one is a 1-star by Doctor Who, What, Where, Cardinal Bound, Free of the Mountains. I just, you gotta go for somebody who puts that into giving their name. What too abstract for this man's tastes. Based on the reviews, this would be a funny movie that involved some degree of cannibalism. However, it turns out that the premise, the topic could provide some dark humor was wrong. Any probability for humor was obscured in the movie itself. This resulted from the fact that the movie tried too hard to be smart and cutting edge. It failed with the result, something I just could not even watch for more than a few minutes. Yellow light bathing everything. No thank you. Meat-colored walls? Again, no thanks. Plain boring story and too ambitious a concept? Not interested. I would argue that it is too abstract to enjoy unless one is as that high an opinion of themselves. However, that might just be me.
Oh, it might.
It just might, Dr. Who Wetware Cardinal Bound Free of the Mountains.
It just might. Amazon.
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.